Welcome to Straight Talk, a community service show, and I merely act as your host. We're very fortunate today to have Dr. Joseph Costa, who is the project manager for the Buzzards Bay project, which is an overview of the budget. We're going to do an overview on the Buzzards Bay project. Let's try that one again. Doctor, welcome to Straight Talk.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I know there's an awful lot of work that you've done on the Buzzards Bay project. Why don't you give us an overview exactly of what this means?
The Buzzards Bay project is an advisory group and environmental planning group that is jointly administered by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the Massachusetts Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. We were established in 1985 when the U.S. Congress designated Buzzards Bay as a estuary of national significance, and we're now one of 17 national estuarine programs around the country working to protect vital coastal resources.
When you say that the EPA is in conjunction with the Mass, is there projects like this that the EPA has in this area got involved in? Is there some financial reimbursement from the EPA?
Yes, our program is funded 75% by EPA and 25% through the state.
Is this unique in the area?
Well, no. In Narragansett Bay, we have a similar project, our sister project, which started at the same time the Narragansett Bay project. And we also have recently had designated Massachusetts Bay's project, which includes Cape Cod Bay and Massachusetts Bay. So just in the southern New England area, we have 3 national estuarine programs, which reflects, the vital importance of the coastal resources of this part of New England.
With Buzzards Bay, I mean, every particular bay or body of water obviously has a different identity. In this, but what are the physical features of Buzzards Bay?
I think the most important thing to recognize about Buzzards Bay is that you have a shallow, relatively restricted flushed bay that has a complex network of shallow embayments that have vital ecological, aesthetic, and economic value to the coastal communities that share this resource.
Is that economic value just in tourism, or does it?
Oh no, there's a lot of shell fishing within Buzzards Bay, and many people rely on that as their livelihood or supplement their income. Tourism is a very broad term and encompasses all sorts of activities along the coastline, boating, the use of the water for transporting goods. So there are very extensive economic interests relating to Buzzards Bay.
Buzzards Bay, as the body of water with its tributaries, does it reach outside the geographical boundaries of Massachusetts?
Actually, it does. When most people think of Buzzards Bay and the Buzzards Bay project, they think we're just working with the coastal communities. Yeah. But there's an entire drainage basin that includes 17 municipalities, actually 19 municipalities, 17 in Massachusetts, 2 in Rhode Island. For example, along the Westport River, the West Branch, you have 2 municipalities in Rhode Island contributing to the groundwater and riverine flow to that embayment. So there are communities very far inland, such as Middleborough, Carver, Rochester, that don't have coastline, even Fall River. 20% of Fall River is within the Buzzards Bay drainage basin, that don't have a piece of coast on Buzzards Bay, but because they're in the drainage basin, they have the potential to impact the bay if there are significant sources of pollution in those areas.
I was thinking of it when I was relating to it, the Chesapeake Bay project, which was a project that encompassed 3 states. I think the states were Maryland, Delaware,
Virginia,
and Virginia. Were those the 3 states that were?
Yes, I think there's even a part of Pennsylvania in there.
That's right, there is. Maybe Delaware we could put out of and bring Pennsylvania. But there
Sure.
were 3 states that were involved in it.
Right.
And I think they had set up something that was a uniquely different type of approach to it. I mean, they involved the legislative bodies of 3 particular states in setting aside well, a cooperative effort, if you will, not just giving a grant up, a cooperative effort to try to not to safeguard the water supply, as well as not to hinder the commercial or industrial need of the tributary. That was, in fact, I don't mean to want to take you to Buzzards Bay, but that seemed to be the Chesapeake Bay. That seemed to be one of the overriding things. Is that something, Joe, we're looking at in this? Is this a watchdog type of a thing for our protection, which is a necessary entity, of course? Do we have? Is there anything exclusive in what you're looking at? Anything that exists today? Do you want out of there?
Okay, actually we have modeled ourselves to a large extent on Chesapeake Bay's program. The National Estuarine program used Chesapeake Bay as a model. Now in Chesapeake Bay you have 3 states that need to cooperate. We have it a little bit easier in that 90% of the Buzzards Bay drainage basin is in Massachusetts, so we're dealing primarily with 1 state. The contributions from Rhode Island to Buzzards Bay are very small. But in principle, the general approach is the same, where we're not working with different states, but we're working with all different levels of government toward a common purpose. Our goal when we were established was to characterize and assess pollution in Buzzards Bay, and based on our findings, to develop management recommendations. Well, since 1985, we've done that. We've gone through and spent...
You identified all of the problems?
Most of the significant problems. We still have unanswered questions. Whenever you do research, you always find out, well, we don't know about this or that, and we have to look into that in the future. But we identified most of the significant problems, and based on what we found, we developed a management plan. We call it the Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan for Buzzards Bay. And we released a public draft in a ceremony with the Secretary of Environmental Affairs and the Regional Administrator of EPA. We released it last June, and in it we have recommendations for all levels of government. What actions the state, federal, and municipal and other local authorities can take to protect their coastal resources. And right now we have just passed beyond the comment period on the management plan. It's been disseminated to all the municipalities in Buzzards Bay. And we're looking forward to completing and finalizing that draft and have it signed off by the new governor this June.
Is it, before I get, Cape Cod has obviously been a focal point of development. I mean, so much so I think we passed some legislation to prohibit or limit the type of developments, the state has, I believe. Is that, how does that, that obviously must affect problems, potential problems, or identified problems within the bay?
Cape Cod is within the Buzzards Bay drainage basin.
Yes.
We have Falmouth and Bourne, which share the basin with the communities on the western shore of Buzzards Bay. Recently, Cape Cod enacted the Cape Cod Commission, which was a regulatory authority set up because the municipalities were not able to control the impacts of development and growth. And basically, because of those frustrations, there was the need. People felt there was a need for a regional authority to try to help out in the situation. Now, a good contrast to the Cape Cod Commission is what the Buzzards Bay Project has recommended. We haven't called for a commission to cover Buzzards Bay. We've taken an alternative approach. We've said that the municipalities, which have considerable power to control their future, including growth, planning, and protecting their wetland resources, should fully utilize that power and work closely with the other levels of government to achieve the same goal. So we have kind of an experiment here. At about the same time the Cape Cod Commission was formed, we have developed a plan that requires a volunteer and cooperative effort by the municipalities. So we'll see how that works out.
In the, perhaps these are stupid questions, I hope not, but in the development of CSOs, which is obviously a problem that happens to us in Fall River, which is part of the Buzzards Bay and the drainage, when you're talking about growth, first of all, I think we'd have to identify that there isn't really sewerage within a lot of the communities that we're talking about with growth. Is that right? It's basically well water. Right. It's basically drilling, which means that is that that's a real really affects the management part of it, in the sense that your input has to be stronger than ever in those areas as you tap those wells.
Sure. When you talk about CSOs, combined sewer overflows, that's only a significant problem in the city of New Bedford. New Bedford is a very old municipality.
Four of it too. Four of us big in that too. We can get into that.
Well, at least in Buzzards Bay.
Okay,
Buzzards Bay.
Okay. We're not blamed for that, are we?
No.
Not in Buzzards Bay.
No.
Okay, all right.
Now, the portion of Fall River that's within the Buzzards Bay Basin is very undeveloped. It's mostly forest and Capicut Reservoir area.
Okay.
In that portion of town. But combined sewer overflows are a problem in New Bedford. I don't think you're going to see any new combined sewer overflows being constructed in the future. So we mostly have a problem of trying to fix those old ones. And the city of New Bedford has developed a CSO plan to retrofit and fix those pollution sources. Now I think they're just trying to struggle to come up with the money to do it. But if you take away the sewage problem in New Bedford, most of Buzzards Bay municipalities dispose of their sewage with on-site septic systems. The homes are not hooked up to a sewer line, they're hooked up to septic systems. All the waste generated by a house is just dumped into the groundwater. And all groundwater eventually makes its way to the rivers, ponds, and bays and estuaries.
There's no treatment at all for how do they dispose of the septic tank?
The septic tanks, if they are recent, have been designed to eliminate risks associated with pathogen contamination, trying to prevent disease-causing organisms from contaminating the environment. But basically, you have in a septic system all the human waste, all the products that go down your drain accumulate, and in many cases they just leach out into the groundwater, and some of them, such as nitrogen, can have adverse impacts into shallow embayments.
We're going to take a little break from Straight Talk. Our guest is Dr. Joseph Costa, the project manager of Buzzards Bay Project, and we're going to talk about the overview. We'll be right back with Straight Talk.
Hi, my name is Sharon Costa Smith from New Bedford Child and Family Service. I'd like to take a moment of your time and tell you about an important service in the Fall River community. Sexual Abuse Intervention Network, otherwise known as SANE, is a program offered by New Bedford Child and Family in Bristol County. Offices are in Taunton, Attleboro, New Bedford, and Fall River. SANE is a multidisciplinary team of professionals who are involved in investigation of child sexual abuse. The team is made up of the SANE coordinator, staff from the Department of Social Services, the District Attorney's Office, and the Police Department. Medical consultants are available when needed. This team approach decreases the amount of investigations which a child participates in, therefore greatly reducing the trauma for the sexual assault victim. Another benefit of the SANE team is the services provided to the family will be better coordinated and more effective as the professionals involved are working on the case early on. If you are in need of more information about this important program, please contact the SANE coordinator at New Bedford Child and Family Service. The number is 996-8572.
Welcome back to Straight Talk. Our guest is Dr. Joseph Costa, who's the project manager of the Buzzards Bay Project. Dr. Costa, we have a map here, the Buzzards Bay Basin land use. Can we pick this up if we got this? Can we get this, zero in on this? You obviously have the map to show us the area that we have been talking about.
Right. Before the break, we were talking about the zone of contribution, potential contribution of pollutants to Buzzards Bay. And a map like this gets people to appreciate how they can be a source of a problem within the Buzzards Bay drainage basin. Here is Buzzards Bay with the Elizabeth Islands bounding on the southern shore, on the southern end of the bay. But there are 19 municipalities altogether that contribute to the problem, all the way from the Cape Cod side, Falmouth and Bourne, stretching around Wareham, Marion, Rochester, Mattapoisett, Fairhaven, New Bedford, Dartmouth, Westport, and even further inland away from the bay, we have towns like Fall River, Freetown, Middleborough, Carver, and Plymouth.
We had said earlier, we were talking about the CSOs versus the well problem, but a lot of the community years and years ago was not developed for what the older cities had picked up. You know, New Bedford being an older city, Fall River being an older city, but the contribution, has there been a growth in industry, usage of the waterway, possible pollution contamination of the waterway? Can't just grow with people and houses, am I right? You have to grow in other areas.
Since 1970, we've seen the area closed to shellfishing in Buzzards Bay quadruple, from around 4,000 to 16,000 acres of shellfish resource areas.
Yeah. What was the source of it, Joe, may I ask?
It varies from location to location. For example, the New Bedford area is closed off because of the sewage treatment plant, and the same is true in the Agawam River area in Fall River, and some other closures around there.
So the CSO's overflows was one of the biggest contributors to that?
Again, localized to New Bedford.
Okay.
But one of the important themes that we're trying to communicate to the municipalities is that New Bedford or Fall River, well, certainly not Fall River, but New Bedford is not contributing to the problems that you see in Bourne, Falmouth, Wareham, or any other municipality, except in the greater New Bedford area.
What is their contribution to pollution? The others other than New Bedford?
Others other than New Bedford?
Yeah.
For example, you have closure in the Westport River drainage area. You have a very large closure. The situation has gotten worse. And there you see mostly stormwater and agricultural sources contributing to the closure.
Meaning pesticides that run from the farm?
The closure is due to bacteria that are found in animal wastes.
Okay.
So
nitrogen,
in the case...
Is nitrogen in animal waste?
It is an animal waste, but the closure of shellfish beds is due to coliform bacteria or viruses, things that occur in the animal's gut, and that's what's keyed in on when they test the water samples. So when bacterial levels are very high in the water, they close it to shellfishing, and when they're very high, they close it to swimming as well. So if you have, say, a dairy farm that is not employing best management practices to reduce the runoff of animal wastes, it can be a significant local source of pollution. In other embayments, we see stormwater runoff as a very significant source. In the past, whenever we built a street, we hooked up a storm drain and discharged that storm drain to the nearest bay or river. And the problem with that is it conveys all sorts of pollutants, including coliform bacteria. And because of this policy in the past, we have a lot of problems that we need to fix now.
You have a land use here with pastures, forest. Gee, I noticed down here in participatory recreation, golf, skiing, tennis, playgrounds, spectator recreation, stadiums, racetracks, and fairgrounds. Because I always get accused of racetracks, but there is nothing of those in there, is there?
Well, there's some golf courses.
Oh, golf courses, yes, but of stadiums, is there any stadiums within that?
There may be some very small stadiums and racetracks, right, like around the...
a racetrack? I don't know, where was it?
No, well, that's an inclusive category. You may not have a racetrack.
I was wondering if it was just a signal here.
Right, no.
So what you do when you lay the land use out, Joe, based on the need for the uses of the bay, not to contaminate the bay beyond bringing back the shellfish, making it a livable estuary and a national acceptance, you have to reach those. I'm going to put the map down. Is that okay? So in this intensive overview of the Buzzards Bay project, in essence, what we're saying is that you have become, is it fair to say, not only a management group, but a sort of a watchdog group over our best interest, over pollution of waterways as they affect everybody else. Without being a policeman, I'm not trying to make you a policeman. I'm just trying to say that it can be utilized in an economic, viable way, but sensibly clean and non-polluting.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's the major theme. You can have growth without polluting the environment if you take the proper precautions. You can enjoy the bay and use the bay without damaging it.
Yep.
And that's the theme we're trying to get across. You mentioned, are we a watchdog group? I would say that we try to make towns aware of problems that they have. We try to call attention to state agencies and inadequacies in the regulations. I think that's the modus of operation that we have. The Buzzards Bay project doesn't have any regulatory authority, but I think we're very influential because we work very closely with the scientific community and we develop very careful, in-depth analyses of environmental problems. So in terms of a watchdog, we'd rather have the citizens, the citizens of Buzzards Bay play that watchdog role.
You're raising not so much the point of prohibitiveness as much as better land use and better land control and better recreational, not only recreational, but you're trying to make the community itself live with one another, basically,
right.
And still be able to be productive and in the areas without polluting. Joe, as we looked at Buzzards Bay, it's an enormous body of water. One of the things we became part of, myself and David Collin, a Rhode Island senator, was to set in motion a Bay State, Ocean State Compact, taking the state of Rhode Island, the state of Massachusetts, and putting them together to address a number of the problems. Obviously, CSOs was a big problem from the Fall River area, and still is, and it's always the wherewithal to be able to pay for that. But also we addressed, and I want to sort of parallel this with the Buzzards Bay project, is that we looked at waterways and traffic on waterways. Now, in traffic on waterways, you know, you just can't say, well, you can't bring boats or motorboats because of fuel discharge or, you know, non-point sources of pollution I think it's a big educational package. But you can finger a barge of coal. You can finger an oil tanker. Is there a lot of traffic like that, which has the potentiality? I mean, it's a necessary, without question, has to play a role.
Right.
But how much is there a lot of traffic in that area?
Yes,
along those lines.
A lot of barges with fuel for Boston travel through the Cape Cod Canal, and if you look at the history of accidents in Buzzards Bay during the last 20 years, there have been 3 major oil spills, spilling I think around 500,000 gallons of oil or other kind of petroleum products. So it's a significant problem.
Was that a navigational problem, or was it? I mean,
in almost every instance, it was related to either pilot error or navigation. A lot of your viewers still have in their mind the recent accidents in Buzzards Bay, the Bermuda Star, the ocean liner that got hung up off of West Falmouth.
Right.
When you look at most of the accidents occurred in the Cleveland Ledge area. That's an approach to the Cape Cod Canal. It's a shoal in Buzzards Bay. There are navigation aids there, but we see over and over a lot of hang-ups on those rocks. So obviously something needs to be done about improving the navigation.
Is there a way to board the vessels? You know, is there a way that that suggestion from a reputable organization like yourself can make to those people that make those decisions to pilot those particular vessels at that point before they get to the Cleveland Shoals?
Right. In the case of, when you look at, say, Narragansett Bay, the pilotage requirements are a little more clear-cut because you have an inland body of water and all the deliveries going into Narragansett Bay are for delivery within the bay.
Yes.
In the case of Buzzards Bay, a lot of people just pass through the bay without a destination in Massachusetts. So the pilotage requirement's a little more complex, and in many cases, a pilot is not required to in most cases, no pilot is required to pass through Buzzards Bay, and there's only limited pilotage requirements through the canal. So one of our recommendations is that those requirements be evaluated and looked at more carefully.
I did get to something in that, huh? I
Yes.
did get to something. I was wondering how do we handle it. I know we have the same problem here. What about recreational now? We're talking Cape Cod here. We're not talking, you know, a limited amount of recreation in some of the other bodies. Newport, Rhode Island would have the same kind of a problem with an overabundance of recreational vehicles that use waterways.
Right.
How are you, you know, fuel, misuse of fuel, spillage, you know, that should be a problem, is it, or is it not?
It is a problem, and one of our recommendations in the management plan addresses the issue of oil spillage around fuel facilities and embayments. We recommend that municipalities adopt oil spill contingency plans, recognizing that even if many precautions are taken, there still may be oil spills either in Buzzards Bay or within their own embayments. And to support these kind of efforts, we have released some grant money, and the town of Westport, for example, received several $1,000s to purchase oil boom containment equipment so that they can use it in case they have a spill around a fuel facility within their harbor, or to exclude larger spills that may occur in the bay that could wash up on their shores.
So in essence, what we're saying is if I have a recreational vehicle, and I'm in one of the locations on the Buzzard Bay, that if it's a fueling depot, if you will, for a recreational vehicle, there should be the booms used in the water to be able to trap whatever spills there are so that they do not escape within the bay and become a multiple of sins if the refueling is done there. What other traffic is there on the bay? I'm going to keep laying on the traffic because I know...
Fishing vessels.
Okay, fishing vessels.
There's a lot of fishing vessels, mostly out of New Bedford, but also Westport and Wareham, that use the bay. For the most part, they're fishing out in the Nantucket Sound or on Georgia's banks.
Yep.
There's a couple of issues that relate to that. First of all, when you look at a fishing vessel's operation, they have to change their motor oil frequently.
Yeah.
And in the case of New Bedford, there is only one place to dispose of that motor oil, and that's with the Fishermen's Co-op. And only 30% of the fishing vessels belong to that Fishermen's Co-op. And there's no other location to dispose of oil. So our presumption is that most fishing vessels are dumping their oil illegally somewhere, either out to sea, we hope not in Buzzards Bay, but even dumping it out to sea is not appropriate. So another area that we're working closely with is the City of New Bedford to provide oil containment, containers, receptacles for this used motor oil. Because you're talking about 30 to 100 gallons of oil that is produced every 1 or 2 weeks. Every time a fishing vessel goes out for a 2-week stint, it has to change its oil, and that has to be disposed of properly.
It's amazing. We're going to take a break on Straight Talk. Our guest is Dr. Joseph Costa, who is the project manager for the Buzzards Bay project. Very interesting. We'll be right back with Straight Talk.
Hi, I'm Sue Broughton from New Bedford Child and Family Service, and I'd like to talk to you today about a new clinic that we've developed. New Bedford Child and Family recently developed an ADHD clinic. ADHD, or Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, is a common and oftentimes serious childhood problem. Approximately 5% of children have this disorder, which is characterized by a short attention span or difficulty sustaining attention on tasks. The child also exhibits restless, fidgety, active, and impulsive behavior. Over 50% of children with ADHD also have a learning disability, which further affects their work and behavior at school. The ADHD clinic at New Bedford Child and Family Service will provide a full array of services, which includes testing and evaluation of the child, education to parents, counseling and therapy to parents and children, either individual, family, or group therapy, consultation to schools, and ongoing review of medicine if the child is currently on medication. If you have any questions about your child or a student, or would like more information, please call New Bedford Child and Family Service at 996-8572.
Welcome back to Straight Talk. Our guest is Dr. Joseph Costa, who's a project manager for the Buzzards Bay project. I interrupted you, Joe. You were going to tell me about municipalities. What were you going to say about that?
The Buzzards Bay project is providing technical assistance and, wherever possible, financial assistance to the municipalities within the Buzzards Bay drainage basin. We occasionally solicit proposals from the municipalities on specific projects. We also take any kind of pre-proposals from the municipalities. So if municipal officials want to get involved with the project, we eagerly would like to assist them.
We're going to flash a number on the screen so they can get in touch with whatever the agency. We want to thank Dr. Joseph Costa, who is the project manager of the Buzzards Bay project. We want to thank you for watching Straight Talk and say so long for now. Remember, help somebody less fortunate than yourself.
This program has been sponsored by Community Challenges Corporation with funding provided by Globe Manufacturing Company.